Good evening and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Along with me is our new student writer, Nick Gonzales, his first time on the podcast. So welcome, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
We're doing excellent as well as we can be with a 2 week old in the house. We welcomed my wife and I welcomed our first child, Maddox, into the world 2 Mondays ago, and he has been a little bit of a handful, but a little bundle of joy as well. So we're here on the podcast to talk about Big Ten Media Days, which are coming up as of this recording tomorrow in Indianapolis on Tuesday. They start. It's now spanning over 3 days instead of two with conference expansion. And IU does not go until Thursday, July 25th. Coach Signetti will be at the individual podium up on the main stage at 12:30 to 12:45. This is on BTN as well. So if you're watching on TV, it's on Big Ten Network. They have breakout sessions with the players as well at their main desk. They don't have the details on what time those will be, but IU goes on Thursday, July 25th. But the whole event starts on Tuesday, July 23rd, starting starting at 11 o'clock on Big Ten Network with the Big Ten Commissioner, Tony Petitti, who will go over everything new. And there's a lot of new stuff in the Big Ten, and we'll get to it on the podcast as well. So, Nick, you'll be there on Thursday for us
Yeah.
with your first experience with Big Ten Media Days. What are you looking forward to at Media Day?
I'm looking forward to asking Kurt Signetti some questions if possible, and then also some of the IU athletes to see what their thoughts are going to be on the new season. Well, like under the new head coach. Um, and also I'm excited to network and talk to a bunch of people there.
Yeah, it is talking season. That's one of the hashtags on X. A lot of coach speak at Big Ten Media Days, but there are a lot of things that we're looking forward to as well. There are some changes coming to Big Ten football, and it's not limited to the teams coming in, which are Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. Of course, those have been the changes that have been talked about a lot. Some under the radar ones that are going to be asked and talked about: helmet communications. College football has announced that they're going to do helmet communications this year. They did a test run in the bowl games. It worked very well. You saw it in the spring game at IU. They had the iPads or Microsoft Surfaces, whoever sponsors it, on the sideline. They had the tablets. And then the 2-minute warning is going to be in effect. I did not remember that this was going into effect until I broke open the video game and playing in the first game, there's a 2-minute warning, and it's like, what is this? And oh yeah, let's talk about the helmet communications first, Nick. What's your takeaway on it? Is this going to be good for the game? Is it going to be all in the wake of the Connor Stallions sign stealing? Does this prevent some of it?
Yeah, I do believe it will prevent some sign stealing, and I just think it will be great for the offense to get like the play calling a lot easier. I do think it might be a struggle for the defense a little bit because having one player on the defense like calling all like telling everyone on the field the play when they have to wait until the offense like breaks a huddle, I think that could be a little difficult. But I think it will be a good thing for the game. It's going closer to the NFL, even though there's still a lot of differences in the rules, but it also with the add of the 2-minute warning, it's like getting even closer to the NFL.
Yeah, the 2-minute warning, and I'll believe it when I see it. They said it's not going to add a TV timeout, but the way that college sports are going, they're going to milk every dime out of everything they got, and they just built in a TV timeout there at the end of the half and at the end of the game as well. I think it should help the people who are kind of casual fans who don't realize that, hey, the clock doesn't stop on first downs until under 2 minutes at the end of the halves, and that's kind of now highlighted with the 2-minute warning. It gives teams an extra timeout there if there is a close game situation, and maybe you have a few more exciting finishes. But overall, until somebody could prove me wrong, yeah, it just seems like a money grab on that 2-minute warning. And then again, you have the new teams. You're welcoming in Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA. IUC goes to UCLA, welcomes Washington this year. Uh, what are your takes on those four former Pac-12 teams coming to the Big Ten?
I went to a lot of Pac-12 games. I went to a lot of like Stanford games. So these schools are like pretty good. I think they're bringing in a lot of momentum coming into this year. I mean, some schools like UCLA might not be as like strong as some of these other schools, but I expect a lot from Oregon and possibly USC and Washington too.
It's interesting you say that they bring a lot, but a lot of these teams mirror each other as well. Oregon and Ohio
Yeah.
State are two favorites in the Big Ten, um, that look to go to the playoff, win a conference championship. You've got Michigan and Washington, who are coming off a national title game appearance, both with new coaches, and a little bit of unknown there. You have USC. Kind of compare them to Penn State. They have all the talent in the world, but can they get over the hump? Now, look, if USC's offense had Penn State's defense, they would be world beaters, and the other way around. So they're kind of inverse on each other. And then UCLA, I think, joins that group of Big Ten teams who are, looking have new head coaches, a lot of unknowns. They bring in first-time head coach Deshaun Foster after Chip Kelly leaves to go become the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. So it's the jerseys will look new. A lot of venues will be new for Big Ten fans. And you do have that, I think, a Friday night, 11 p.m. kickoff, USC Rutgers out west after game one of the World Series. So a little different time slot for a lot of these Eastern time zone, Central time zone fan bases. What are you most excited about the new things coming to the Big Ten?
I'm excited about just seeing Oregon how they do in the Big Ten because they showed they were really good last year, even though they fell short to Washington. But they show that they can handle other teams, even though they're in the Pac-12, which is not as strong as people think, as like compared to the Big Ten. I still think they'll be able to hold their own. And then I'm also excited to see how the Washington head coach, what's it called?
Jed Fish.
Yeah, does from like he came from Arizona. He had a terrible first season, but then he ended up like 10-3 last year. So he has some momentum. I think Washington could be pretty good this year. I just excited to see how they all stack up against each other.
Yeah, Jed Fish was interesting. Coming from Arizona, had a great team, had a couple guys who he thought maybe follow him through the transfer portal. They decided to stay at Arizona. Um, so he had to go to his backup plan. But yeah, Indiana faces Washington uh, October 28th in Bloomington. That'll be a game to keep an eye on as one of those swing games on IU's schedule. And then, of course, IU's bringing a new head coach, Kirk Cignetti. We've talked at length about his, resume, and to quote him, for those of you who don't know, just Google him. He wins football games. He's won a ton. He took James Madison to the top 25 last year. Had him at 11-0. Brings a lot of those all Sun Belt players from James Madison with him to Bloomington, and then a couple other all Sun Belt guys from teams that he played. And kind of joke around and say it's the all Group of Five team is Indiana, and how that's going to work. What are you looking forward to? And my full expectation is that Coach Cignetti is going to give 20 minutes of coach speak up at the podium, and all of that stuff. But what do you want to hear Coach Cignetti explain at Big Ten Media Days?
I want to hear how, as the new head coach, if the culture is changing in Indiana or like if it's going to be a good change or a bad change, and how the the current Indiana players that were there last season are gonna do under Signetti and how the new transfers are adjusting to Indiana. I want to see that, and I want to see maybe some of his more expectations of being a head coach in the Big Ten, besides him calling out Purdue, Ohio State, and Michigan.
That is something that I think you'll he'll definitely be asked. However, the only team sticking around that day will be Michigan. So we'll see if the Ohio State and Purdue writers, both semi-local, will stick around to ask him that and things like that. That might be more of a fan question, um, that fans want to hear. I don't really think that Ohio State, Michigan fans really care what Kirk Signetti says about them. Seeing that Indiana's beaten them once combined since 1987 or 1988. Um, but what I want to see is can he paint the tangible picture of the change that has happened? Now, we won't know the results until IU hits the field against Florida International on August 31st, but does he give some tangible examples of, hey, our players are coming in, getting their work done, getting out, here are some numbers, here are some standouts from the summer, and all of that stuff. And then, Nick, I think what is also nice, you hinted at it, you have returning players to IU, transfers who have been under Kirk Signetti, and then new transfers from Power Five programs. And all three of those categories are going to be represented at media day for IU. You have Mike Kadick, who has been in the program a long time, and he could attest to where the culture was, where it is now. You have Aiden Fisher, who was Mr. J. He was the face of the defense in spring ball. Echoed a lot of the stuff that Kirk Signetti said during interviews and during the spring game. And then you have Justice Ellison, who's coming over from Wake Forest, who hasn't played under Kirk Signetti. So you have a guy who knows the culture in Aiden Fisher, who's been with Kirk Signetti for this will be his third year. You have Mike Kadick, who knows the Indiana culture, who's been with the program, and then you have Justice Ellison, who's new to both. And it'll be interesting to see what they say about them. I don't think you'll get any major roster news. At least I haven't heard anything on the down low, but that's always something to keep an eye out for. Anything else, Nick, that you're looking forward to at Big Ten Media Day that'll, excite fans for the rest of the season?
Just what I'm excited for is seeing like some of the because some people were missing during the spring games, such as like JMU transfer James Carpenter because of injuries, and I want to see how they're doing and if they're on track to be like best shape possible for the season because they're going to be really great players to watch. And it's just I'm excited to see all these new transfers and then all the returning IU guys just get together and play ball.
Yeah, but that's something I kind of overlooked. Is you hit it on the head there. There were a lot of guys who did not participate in spring ball because of recovering from off-season surgeries. You mentioned Carpenter, who had a ton of tackles for loss at defensive tackle at JMU. Jalen Walker, who's a linebacker, who comes over from JMU as well, and then another returning IU guy, Linnell Carr, didn't play during spring ball. So it's getting an update on those guys. We'll see if it's generic coach speak or he gives an actual update. But seeing that those guys are 100% and ready to go for the FIU game will be very good news for IU.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap it up here, Nick, just again, Big Ten Media Days. It's on Big Ten Network starting tomorrow, July 23rd. Nick will be there on Thursday when IU goes on July 25th. I might make an appearance. We'll see how life is going at the time. But Indiana's Kirk Signetti is set to speak from 12:30 to 12:45 at the main stage. Those are always on BTN, and then they show interviews with Signetti and the players at the at the desk, update desk, uh, during the day, and then individual podium sessions, which are not televised, but we'll give you updates from. Signetti goes from 1:15 to 2, and the IU players go from 3 to 3:30. So it's a long day on Thursday, but we'll bring you all the updates from Big Ten Media Days. It is the kickoff of the 2024 football season, although it is talking season, and get used to coach speak because that's what's coming. Nick, thanks for joining us. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
I'm just excited for football season to start. I'm just ready for it, and I've been waiting.
Yeah, we've all been waiting. We have our countdown to kickoff going at HoosierHuddle.com. Nick has written at least a dozen of those countdown to kickoff pieces and has done a great job. We also have our first glance previews. Nick has written a couple of those as well, previewing all the opponents. I believe we have Nebraska coming out on Friday. So we have the first 6 weeks out already. You can check that out on HoosierHuddle.com. You can follow us on X at Hoosier_Huddle. And then, subscribe on YouTube and anywhere else you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. And if I'm missing one, Nick, you're one of the younger guys. So let me know if there's a new podcast hub to get on. But thanks for listening. Enjoy Big Ten Media Days, and we'll be back to preview the Big Ten and the rest of the season as the season gets closer.
Yep.